Yo, what's going on, everybody? You are watching Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman. We got some breaking news for you guys on this Sunday morning, as it's looking like the Vikings are going to be parting ways with defensive tackle Javon Hargrave and Aaron Jones. Adam Schefter tweeting out that the Vikings have informed running back Aaron Jones and defensive tackle Javon Hargrave that barring a trade, they will be released at the start of the league year this month. We got that report from Jordan Schultz a couple weeks ago that the Vikings are looking for trade suitors for Javon Hargrave, but that's just a classic, like, hey, we want to trade this guy, but if we don't get any draft capital, we'll just end up cutting him. So we'll talk about these moves, how much the Vikings do end up saving against the cap, and also other moves that they have to make, because right now the Vikings, before these moves, were $45 million over the cap, and this only clears up about $19 million. So they're going to have to make a bunch more moves. Also talk about the running back position, because now with just Jordan Mason, expect the Vikings to draft a running back. And also I do want to talk about a Jeremy Fowler report at the tail end of today's show, where he pretty much just said Kyler Murray and Geno Smith are the two most likely options for the Vikings at the quarterback position. But if you guys could, hit that subscribe button today. This is the time of the year where stuff starts flying off the walls. We're going to be getting breaking news probably every single day around the Minnesota Vikings. So if you guys don't want to miss a thing, become a more informed Minnesota Vikings fan, hit that subscribe button today. Would greatly appreciate it. Once you guys are subbed to the channel, just give me those skulls down below. All right, let's start off here talking about – let's go Aaron Jones first. So the Vikings cutting Aaron Jones will save them $7.75 million against the cap. And Aaron Jones this past season, I actually thought he ran pretty well, especially that Lions game when he was coming back from that hamstring injury. He brought some juice to the running back room, and I thought he was moving better than I thought he was heading into the season. But clearly with him being 31 years old, a lengthy injury history, this makes sense for the Minnesota Vikings. They got to get younger. They got to get more athletic at the running back position, and this still bothers me dating back to last year. You gave Aaron Jones this contract where I didn't feel like the Vikings needed to. Like, last year's running back draft class was so stacked and so deep. There were guys in round 6 and round 7 that you could have got that would have been contributors from day one, but they wanted to go with the veteran. Aaron Jones clearly has a lot of locker room value with this team. He's seen as a leader, so they were valuing that also when they decided to bring him back. But this was the right move for the Vikings. We all expected Aaron Jones to get cut. Now, I do think this probably means the Vikings are going to draft a running back. They were doing a bunch of homework at the NFL Scouting Combine on a lot of these top backs. You got Emmett Johnson, Nebraska running back, who grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, was not actually offered by the Golden Gophers, ended up choosing to go to Nebraska. Ran pretty much I think it was a 4.56 40, so it wasn't just a total blazer, but he's a physical downhill back. Now, I really like Emmett Johnson, but he's pretty similar to Jordan Mason, so I don't know if they would want that overlap in two very similar styles of running backs. Maybe they would want to go more of a pass catcher, more of a speed demon next to Jordan Mason. We also got guys like Kaytron Allen and Nick Singleton. Now, if you guys remember 2 years ago when there was some reporting that maybe the running backs could, or the Penn State running backs could come out of the draft, Vikings were doing a lot of homework on Kaytron Allen and Nick Singleton. And then they come to the Combine. Vikings meet with both of them. Now, I think if you want a mix-up from Jordan Mason, like Singleton's probably your guy, because Kaytron Allen, very similar to Jordan Mason, downhill back, bruising, but I love Kaytron Allen. I mean, this guy's got some of the biggest legs at the running back position in college football. Tough to bring down one-on-one. Massive fan of Kaytron Allen. So, even though this running back draft class is not as deep as last year, had the top-end talent, like, you still got guys like Jeremiah Love. I think he's a generational prospect, but then you still have some guys on day 2, day 3, especially early day 3 for the Vikings that they could potentially target. So expect them to draft the running back. Now, let's kick it to Javon Hargrave here. So this one was expected. Now, we were hearing reports at the Combine that also they're going to try to move off Jonathan Allen as well. It's a tricky contract. Like, you save $6 million by cutting Jonathan Allen, but you also take on $17 million of dead cap, so I don't know how much benefit that would be to the Minnesota Vikings, but we all knew Hargrave was going to get cut. This frees up just under $11 million, 10.9 to be exact, so you get almost 8 from Aaron Jones, you get almost 11 from Javon Hargrave. Vikings clear up about $18.5 million worth of cap space, but there's still a lot of moves to be done, and, I think Javon Hargrave, obviously him and Jonathan Allen were the two biggest whiffs from the Vikings this past offseason. Like, Will Fries, okay, he played all 17 games. He was a middle-of-the-pack guard. Not going to kill the Vikings for giving him 5 years, $88 million. Would we want more from Will Fries? Absolutely. Whatever. He's playing decent football. Like, I don't think that contract's as bad as most people make it out to be. But there's no doubt that Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen deals were an absolute disaster. And you need to move off this contract. And the Vikings are so lucky that a guy like Jalen Redmond, where you found from the XFL, played as good as he did this past season, where I still remember Greg Olsen was on the call of one of these Vikings games, and he was asking the other team's coach who when they're playing the Vikings beforehand, they're like, who's the best player on the Vikings defense? And they all said Jalen Redmond, number 61 on the middle. So the Vikings are lucky that a guy like Redmond broke out this past season, even a Levi Drake Rodriguez, where both those guys were out snapping Javon Hargrave at the end of the season when we really saw this Vikings defense. Like, it was good throughout the whole season, but once Levi Drake Rodriguez started getting more snaps, the defense went to another gear. So cutting Hargrave makes a lot of sense. I don't necessarily think defensive tackle is that dire of a need for this football team. Would I like another one in the room? Absolutely, but you got your starters. You got decent depth with a guy like Tyron Ingram-Dawkins, who you're hoping he develops in year 2 of his NFL career. So Hargrave goes. I'm assuming Jonathan Allen will also go. At least that's just a reporting from the Combine. We'll see. It doesn't make too much sense financially. Now, we were also hearing from the Combine that TJ Hockenson probably won't get cut, which is a bit of a shocker to me, because right now, if you look who has the biggest cap hit at the tight end position next year, it's TJ Hockenson. Flatly, he just can't play on that contract. If he's making $22 million for 2026 and $23 million in 2027, he can't play on that. If he wants to be a Minnesota Viking next year, he has to take a pay cut. There's no restructuring this contract either. There's no extending him. Like, it would just flat out him taking a pay cut. But reports are saying that Vikings will lean to keep him, which makes me assume that he would be taking a pay cut potentially to stay with the Minnesota Vikings. But I thought that was an interesting one, interesting little nugget from the Combine. So let's talk about what Jeremy Fowler said. So Jeremy Fowler early on this morning put out an article saying that the two main guys for the Vikings to watch out for are Kyler Murray and Geno Smith. Now, I think schematically, Geno Smith makes a lot more sense. He's a pocket passer. He can get the ball out on time. He can be accurate. I almost want, for Geno Smith's sake, just to throw away his film with the Raiders this past season, where the Raiders had no weapons, they had no offensive line, and Chip Kelly, their offensive coordinator, was just in over his head. But if it's between Geno Smith and Kyler Murray, for me, I'm going with Kyler Murray. I understand the scheme fit. It doesn't make sense. Like, flatly, the scheme fit of Kyler Murray and Kevin O'Connell makes no sense on paper. But we were saying the same thing about Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. Maybe the genius, QB whisperer, QB guru that we have with the Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell, what if he can adjust his scheme? What if he can be more Kyler Murray friendly instead of just being like, hey, I need this style of quarterback to be effective, and if I don't, then, tough luck. Like, the quarterback's in a struggle. Like, that shouldn't be the mindset. But also, why I would lean Kyler over Geno is if the Vikings bring in Geno Smith and J.J. McCarthy can't beat him out, we got problems. Like, with a whole offseason of J.J. developing, working behind the scenes, hopefully fixing his mechanics, becoming a way more mature person and player out there on the football field, if he can't beat out Geno Smith, I think that's a concern for the Vikings organization. But if he can't beat out Kyler Murray, it's like, okay, Kyler was the former number 1 overall pick. He was with Arizona, a dysfunctional organization. And also, I will pound the table for Kyler Murray's sake here. The best football we will see from Kyler Murray his entire career, if he joins the Vikings, would be next year on the Vikings. He's had nothing in Arizona. He's had terrible coaches. He's had Cliff Kingsbury and Rich Gannon. Terrible coaching staffs. Not too good of rosters. Dysfunction from top down in that organization. That's the same bucket of guys like Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, where they're drafted high by these organizations. They don't have the support system. They go elsewhere. Kyler Murray would fit that bill. And the scheme fit, I get it. It doesn't make sense, like, on paper when you see it in your head, like Kyler Murray running a Viking system, at least the system we've seen the last couple of years. It just takes your head coach, your genius offensive mind, to adjust. Be more Kyler Murray friendly. And I think why Kyler would intrigue me more is, like, we don't know the ceiling of the football team with Kyler Murray next year. I know the ceiling with Geno Smith. If Geno Smith is the 17-game starter, the Vikings will win a lot of football games next year. You have a top 5 defense. You got the weapons you have. They'll go win 10 games. There would be no doubt in my mind. The floor would also be higher with Geno. But with Kyler Murray, who knows? If you told me this time next year the Vikings win 13 games with Kyler Murray, I would be like, yeah, I could see that playing out. And also if you told me they won 7 games with Kyler Murray, I could be like, yeah, I could see that playing out. I would rather take the risk on Kyler. And if Kyler's struggling at the beginning of the season, okay, turn it over to J.J. McCarthy. Geno Smith, same can be said about him. He's struggling early on in the season. Turn it over to J.J. McCarthy. So, listen, there's going to be a lot more reporting coming out this entire week. Appreciate all of you guys for tuning in today. We'll get on out of here. As always, Skol Vikes.